Welcome in.
Don't worry, I won't ruin the intro like last time.
No, that's okay. We're good. We got it squared away. We got it figured out. We're just having a conversation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Face Mask Podcast. John Alsace, Nick Payne. We are slowly getting back to the days during the NFL offseason where we can kind of react to things real time as they're happening.
Yeah, man, some stuff happened today. Like some actual football related stuff that like a bunch of it happened today. It was a fun little day.
Some shit went down. It's always fun when some stuff goes down in the NFL. Before we get to the little bit more recent news, let's backtrack a couple days ago, the beginning of the week.
Dak?
Dak track.
Dak track. Dak to the future. Yeah. There we go.
See, we're already on a roll. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, who we profiled heading into free agency about what could possibly happen with Dak. As it turns out, re-upping with the Cowboys for 4 years, $160 million. I specifically remember John saying when we went over his potential free agency situation that from a fantasy perspective, the best case scenario is if Dak returns to the Cowboys. And lo and behold, he's returning to the Cowboys. I don't know about you, but to me, this means that Dak's ADP is right where it should be and will probably climb. All of those receivers are more than safe to draft. That offense should be good. There's some concerns about the offensive line going into the season, but they overcame those issues in 2020. I have no reason to believe that this offense should be anything other than great for fantasy purposes in 2021.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys out there listening checked out a pod I did a few weeks ago about Ezekiel Elliott and whether or not he could be an RB1 coming into this season. And the clear answer there is yes. I extrapolated his numbers over the first 5 games of the season, and he was the RB1 over Derrick Henry. So this is great for Zeke.
This is great for your prediction.
Look at these numbers for Dak. This is crazy. You know how many yards he had extrapolated those first 5 games extrapolated over a 16-game season?
No.
Guess. I really want you to guess.
I mean, I'm gonna assume because you want me to guess, it's over 5,000 yards.
Yes.
What's the record? It's around, I want to say
5,477 by Peyton Manning.
So I'll go ahead and guess that he would have surpassed that. Maybe 50. I'll go crazy and say he would have. He was on pace for 5,500.
5,939 yards.
Okay,
all right, and this is a guy
that would have come back to earth a little bit.
Quote unquote only thrown for 28.8 touchdowns last season. If his first 5 games numbers were extrapolated over the course of a 16-game season again, because within that same span, Zeke scored 7. So if that regression would have moved any more towards the quarterback scoring more than the running back in that offense, then he could have scored even more than 28 touchdowns.
The point is, this Cowboys offense remains one to target. I especially love, and I'm going to start coming out with a little bit more targeted focus on best balls in the coming days and weeks. But this is an offense to stack in best ball right now today. While you can potentially still get Dak at a slightly lower rate of his ADP, maybe that was built in with a little bit of uncertainty, but now that he's locked in, if you can draft Ezekiel Elliott at the back end of round 1, and then also on top of that, get Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott in the, say, 4th, and then, say, late 5th, 6th round area, you're going to be sitting pretty. This offense is going to hum. If Dak is fully recovered from the foot injury and the broken ankle, they're still going to have to support a bad defense. There's only so much better the defense can get this year. So the Cowboys are going to continue to be an offense to target in all formats, but right now you can play best ball. Go find a way to get them on your team.
I'm going to illustrate exactly the point that Nick's playing at with a few stats here. CeeDee Lamb in those first 5 games was the wide receiver 11. So he was a wide receiver 1.
He was a 1.
He was better than Allen Robinson because Allen Robinson was 12. So this is CeeDee Lamb. Better than Allen Robinson when playing with Dak as a rookie.
So he's locked in. Yep.
Wide receiver 16. High upside wide receiver 2.
That would go up.
That would put up wide receiver 1 numbers. And that would probably go up. You're right.
Yeah.
Michael Gallup, guy that's kind of been forgotten, but in the year that he put up with Dak in 2019, he was a clear-cut wide receiver 2. Now you think CeeDee Lamb's there. But in those first 5 games, Michael Gallup was the wide receiver 27. So that's a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 that you could definitely play in your wide receiver 3 spot and your flex spot and feel great about.
Absolutely.
And Dalton Schultz was the tight end 12 through that span too. So this is an offense where you literally could stack every starting player, and it would probably be a benefit to you in some form or fashion. You know what I mean?
Blake Jarwin is currently free to that point about Dalton Schultz. His ADP has plummeted due to the injury. He's going to be back. He gets his quarterback back. This offense is going to fly. You can take advantage of it now, playing best ball and stacking players. There's nothing wrong with getting multiple players from one team if you think that offense is going to be good. And with Dak re-upping with Dallas, I know this offense is going to put up huge numbers. So it's back to the well for drafting Cowboys in 2021. You want them on your team. You want them on your fantasy teams, whichever the format. They're going to produce.
Zeke
this was the best case scenario from a fantasy perspective.
Zeke is going to be a guy now that's going to be underrated in the first round. So I would reach for him at this point because, again, based on his first 5 games, he was the RB1 in that season over Derrick Henry. I would be looking at CeeDee Lamb because people are going to be thinking Amari Cooper is going to be the number 1 in that offense still, but just based off of name recognition. So you could sneakily land CeeDee Lamb maybe a few rounds later, maybe a round later. I'm not sure. I'd have to really look at the ADP there, but you're going to get a better player for more value in that offense.
It's about 1 round between Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. So it's not much. People have caught on. I just want to, I wanted to say one quick thing. So Zeke's ADP right now is about 10.4. So back end of the first round.
Oh, dude, I'm reaching for him. I'm reaching for him
at 5?
4. I'd start hitting on Zeke around 4.
Woof. Okay, so you're basically taking only McCaffrey, Kamara, and Dalvin Cook at this point over Zeke?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
Everybody else has workload warts or they're just not in as good offenses.
Our first ballsy hot take of the offseason, courtesy of John. Zeke Elliott will return top 4 ADP value this year.
No, not that he will, that he should.
You're by drafting him, by suggesting that drafting him at 4, you think he'll return a much higher return on investment.
I thought you meant the ADP would work out to 4, but no, I don't think people are going to be that high on him, even coming closer to the season. I think you're getting value if you're buying pretty much any of these Dallas Cowboys right now.
I think we're both pretty bullish on the offense as a whole.
And I do just have to say one thing. With how good Dak was, and this isn't fantasy related, but just football, because we're talking about football. With how good Dak was and how good the Cowboys offense was through those first 5 games, and just how bad that whole division was. I mean, if Dak stays up and running through all 16 games, that team's going to the playoffs. I think that team has a chance to beat Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
They don't have the defense yet.
Okay. You're right.
They don't have the defense yet.
I want to figure out a way to just put Tom Brady winning another Super Bowl behind me. So I'm coming up with the reasons.
That's a conversation for another day. The point is, though,
else. Let's talk about
this. We're bullish on this offense. I'll tell you an offense I'm not bullish on, and that's about a player who got tagged today. That's Allen Robinson. Not bullish on the Bears. Sorry, Bears.
That was great.
I mean, if they traded for Russell Wilson, then that changes the whole narrative. But yes, the big name today that got the franchise tag, there were a couple, but I'll give Allen Robinson the courtesy of being the number one name this year, getting slapped with the franchise tag. He stays with Chicago for one more year, and he might be catching passes again from Mitchell Trubisky. Maybe it's Nick Foles. Maybe it's somebody else that we don't know about. Russell Wilson feels like a pipe dream, but his name has been in trade rumors.
That's not going to happen.
That's pretty much the let us dream scenario. But what it is more likely is, right now Mitchell Trubisky is the starter for the Bears. So are you as enthusiastic about this as I am? Because I love Allen Robinson and I'll continue to draft him. But the first thing I said was, God damn it, when I saw the news.
I mean, I think there's a very good chance that they explore another route as far as QB starter through the draft. I think that would be the smart thing to do to get some actual competition for Trubisky and not Foles. We all know Foles, great story. He's not a starting quarterback in this league. Neither is Trubisky. You need to get him some real legitimate competition and try to find a better quarterback than Trubisky. And I just want to talk about the other two fantasy relevant players in this offense now. Allen Robinson was the wide receiver 12 in 2019. He was the wide receiver 12 in 2020. And he will be the wide receiver 12 or better in 2021. It's just he doesn't have, wide receiver
he'll be a one.
Top 3 ceiling. Because he does. No. If he plays with a great quarterback, and I know you feel this way, Nick, he has top 3 ceiling.
I would say at least top 5 upside, but the quarterback situation holds him back.
But I also wanted to touch on Darnell Mooney here, because he's been a hot name.
Yes.
And I just, with this bringing back of Allen Robinson, I really think you got to fade him. I really do. Because if they stick with Trubisky, there's not enough volume to go around to make him anything more than a low-end wide receiver 3. I know he's promising. I want to see him go to play with a better quarterback, which is why I said all that stuff about wanting to get the Bears better quarterback. I think they should go that route, getting a better quarterback. But I don't see a way where Mitchell Trubisky puts up 2 fantasy-relevant players.
It's a low-volume passing offense. It's not a very efficient offense in general. We're pretty much hoping for a rehash of a season from David Montgomery to keep the Bears offense on the field, keep drives moving, to give guys like Mooney more opportunities. The one thing I'll say in his favor is his ADP right now is about 132. So if you like him, you're not really spending anything to get him. He's a wide receiver 4 or 5 right now, so he's not a premium name that you're focusing on right now.
I've been hearing the buzz grow on him pretty much all season, and he was the wide receiver 55 last season. So it's,
it's not. Well, first of all, it's not like his ADP is in the top 100 or something like that, where the upside and expectations are through the roof. I think 132 sounds about right for a number 2 receiver on an offense that right now is not super efficient throwing the football. And they still have a bad offensive line. I know David Montgomery ate last year, especially in the second half, but that offensive line still needs a lot of work. So that's also a concern. I don't think this is a guy that we need to focus too much time on. I think he's a viable option at his ADP if you need a wide receiver 4 or 5 and you just want to take a look at a guy. Outside of that, he'll have his good weeks. He'll have his weeks where he's not a viable starter, and that'll be that.
Do you feel that there are any other fantasy relevant
on the Bears? No. It's Allen Robinson, who is a wide receiver 1. Darnell Mooney is an interesting guy to monitor. David Montgomery went on a tear in the second half of the season. I'm still not a huge Montgomery guy. Call me a hater. That's fine. It's hard to get behind this Bears offense as a whole outside of Allen Robinson. The one thing that is in Montgomery's favor, and this is the case for any running back that's on a team with a good defense, is, I just said it, the Bears have a very good defense. Good defenses can lead to favorable situations for running backs. If there's a turnover, or if it's a low-scoring game, or if it's a close game, that always plays into the favor of the running back. So if you like running backs just based on opportunities like that, then sure, a guy like David Montgomery will serve you. But that's about the best endorsement I can give Montgomery. His opportunities with that defense on the other side should keep him in the RB2 conversation. I'm just not, I'm not overly enthused about David Montgomery, even though he popped last year.
Yeah, he was the RB4 last season, and by no means should anybody be expecting a repeat of that.
In the second half, right? Not for the season.
Right.
In the second half of the season, he was RB4.
Specified that. But he was averaging to be the wide receiver 16 in the first half of the season. So I think even if he's quote unquote struggling with that offense, you're right. The amount of touches he's going to get, you want to bet on a running back that's going to get the touches. He's a guy that is going to at least get that work. He reminds me of a Melvin Gordon, but younger.
Right. He's only 24. You could do worse than David Montgomery. It's just not the most inspiring pick. Sometimes, guess what? Sometimes boring picks are just fine. You just need a guy who you can plug in. He's a nice complement to what the rest of your lineup is. Maybe you have some high upside, some high variance players in there, and you need a guy who has a steady floor. That's David Montgomery. Will he maintain top 5 RB pace for even half of a season? Not sure about that one.
No, I don't think so. But I think he's a very safe bet to be a high-end running back too for the whole season. Sure. And I do want to mention Cole Kmet because Jimmy Graham last year in that same offense was the tight end 10. So I think that Cole Kmet, with the growing role that he's going to have in light of Jimmy Graham leaving, I would be willing to bet that he would finish somewhere in between the tight end 10 and the tight end 8 on the season, just based off of the opportunity that he's going to have. And we know that offense likes to target and kind of feature in the red zone tight ends.
Kmet's ADP is 155. That is juicy.
There you go.
Go get him.
Tight end
That's a perfect situation where you draft a George Kittle in the second round and you're playing best ball and you don't want to invest too many resources in tight end because you just spent a second round pick on one. Cole Kmet as your tight end too. And there you go. Then you're set. You spend the rest of your picks on running backs, receivers, and quarterbacks.
Yeah, because he's a guy that, like I said, he will finish somewhere in between that tight end 8, tight end 10.
He'll be a tight end 1. Cole Kmet will be a tight end 1. He'll be an excellent return on investment with that ADP being as dirt cheap as it is. So there you go, Bears. You got some players on offense.
Let's talk about another team that absolutely has players on offense. And I did mention them earlier in the pod.
Yeah, they do.
That would have made for a smooth transition into this general topic about who got franchise tagged. But, I missed it. We'll get better at that.
We're not the smoothest.
But Chris Godwin, I know you're a fan because you have him. He was one of your first guys you went in and bid heavy on in the dynasty league that we're in. I know you love this guy. What do you think about him getting franchise tag?
This is great for Tampa, and it made sense. It was between him or Shaq Barrett as far as the franchise tag. Barrett's 29, Godwin's 24. I mean, it makes sense to keep Godwin around if you're the Bucs for as long as possible to try to get a long-term deal done. The franchise tag sucks for the players. It sucks for Godwin and Robinson. There's no long-term stability associated with the tag.
They are making $16.4 million, though. So
sure, but all it takes is one injury, and that long-term contract can potentially get derailed. So, separate conversation. This was a must, in my opinion, for the Tampa offense, because it keeps them high octane, high level, elite passing offense. The running game is just good enough to get by, but with Tom Brady having Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and they could still bring Antonio Brown back, and Gronk. They could bring back that whole
Gronk's
offense.
Coming back. I think he's.
I think he is too. If it's either in Tampa or nowhere. So if they can bring back the same exact offense that they had in 2020, they're going to be good again. They're going to be really good again. It's going to be difficult to project the individual receivers. So again, in best ball,
I don't think it is.
So in best ball, like the Cowboys, it's going to make sense to stack bucks if you can, especially
I like
the pass
stacking
catchers.
bucks.
Yeah. See, yes, that's what it's all about. And we're gonna try to help our listeners stack some bucks by the end of the 2021 season with the Bucks. But yeah, you can get Mike Evans, and then the Brady stack is relatively easy to get, and Antonio Brown's ADP is a little bit below Tom Brady. So if you can stack Cowboys, or if you want to stack players in the team like the Cowboys, you miss out on, stack Bucks. But as far as individual production, Mike Evans was the wide receiver 1 for that team last year. I am inclined to believe that's going to happen again. With Godwin, we saw him miss some time in 2020, so that hurt him.
Yeah,
hopefully he's able to get through the 2021 season a little bit more unscathed. Even if he does, he's still competing with presumably all of these names we just mentioned for targets, and that hurt his game-to-game production in 2020. So if Antonio Brown is back, if Gronk is back, if they still have Scotty Miller, they still have Tyler Johnson, who is a piece that a lot of people really like. Godwin's going to continue to be awesome, but it might be a little inconsistent.
I will say this: I went back and I looked at the first half of games versus the second half of games. And in the first half of games that Chris Godwin played, he was the wide receiver 65. And in the second half of games that he played, he was the wide receiver 13, while Mike Evans was the wide receiver 7. And this is when Gronk was starting to play good, and that team was really starting to click. I think Tom Brady said it took him until week 14, 15, 16 until he really started to get comfortable in the offense. And sometimes you think that's coach speak or player speak and stuff.
Sure, but sometimes there's some validity to it.
If you look at the numbers, that offense did really start to come into its own at the end of the season. It seemed like they figured out what they wanted to do in the run game, and Tom Brady figured out where people were going to be when they wanted to be, and he got
acclimated with his weapons.
Right. So I think they saw Chris Godwin really click in the second half of the season, where he was the wide receiver 13, and they were like, all right, yeah, we got to keep this guy around. But from a fantasy perspective, you're getting a borderline wide receiver 1 in this offense if you invest in Chris Godwin. And again, just like another person that we talked about in the show, I think that means that he's a little bit of a discount right now, because I don't think that people think of him as the wide receiver that finished in the top 3 of wide receiver rankings in 2019, was it?
Yes.
And one thing that kind of illustrates that I digged into the stats a little bit, his yards per route in the 3 years that he played with Jameis Winston was 15. That's what it averaged out to for those 3 years. His yards per route with Brady, 12.9. So he's not going to get the yardage that he did when he was that top 3 wide receiver. But the touchdowns are going to stay level or go up, and he's still going to get enough work in the game, targets-wise, and he's still good enough of a player that he's definitely going to be able to give you wide receiver 2 production for the majority of the year with wide receiver 1 weeks built in there, and he's the guy that you can get on a discount.
Yeah, with an ADP around, it's about 48 right now.
There you go.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who was regularly getting drafted end of the second, high third round last year. Now he's slipping to the bottom of the fourth. And to your point, they started to click in the second half.
And their defense is going to be a lot worse this year because they're not going to be able to sign people because they're picking up Chris Godwin here.
They may have to let a couple of people walk. They did re-sign Levante David, so that was a good sign for their offense, for their defense. But there's not going to be any unfamiliarity this year now going into the season with Brady and the offense. Now he's got the year under his belt. This offense should hum. It should be good. It should work. Godwin looks like a great investment at the bottom of the fourth round. Mike Evans' ADP, for the record, is not that high either. You can get him in the high fourth round, but Godwin at the bottom of the fourth round could be even a little better.
Just another offense that people are kind of underrating right now from a fantasy perspective.
I would think Evans is the de facto one, but if there's any type of chemistry developed there with Godwin now that he's healthy,
no, I think he stays the one, but I just think it's going to be a little bit more of an even distribution, and I think Godwin is going to be borderline wide receiver one.
Going to bounce back nicely. I'm looking forward to that.
But what about some of these guys that did not get franchise tagged? We got a couple of guys to talk about here. Another wide receiver named Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Jets are about to back up the Brinks truck. You know, between Kenny Golladay, Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, you know, we kind of previewed already the teams that actually had the cap space. And I'm just looking at the Jets. To me, I feel like they could make two splash free agent signings on offense, and they sorely need it too. So they could sign any two of these three. I think Golladay is going to have a big market because Robinson and Godwin both got the franchise tag. So Golladay is the clear-cut wide receiver one of this free agent class. So teams are going to be lined up to sign him. So it's just going to be a matter of who's willing to spend the most money. I don't think it's necessarily going to come down to what's the best fit. Golladay is going to have his suitors lining up, and he's going to be able to just, in theory, pick the team that's willing to pay him the most money. Robinson's not available. Godwin's not available. Like, teams are going to overpay for Kenny Golladay. He is going to get a good contract. The problem is that good contract potentially is coming from a bad team.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even realize that. I guess the guy that's next in line there behind Kenny Golladay is Corey Davis.
Galladay's going to get paid.
Wow. Golladay is going to get a ton of money.
Yep.
I was kind of counting on the Lions franchise tagging him because I thought, why would they walk away from a wide receiver one in his prime? But looks like they're rolling into the season with, at least for now, we don't know about the draft, Tyrell Williams as their wide receiver one.
Quintez Cephas is free in best balls.
I do just want to say, everybody's looking at Tyrell Williams and thinking, hell nah. But Tyrell Williams was a wide receiver 2 when he got 121 targets. And if he gets 121 targets again, I think he's a safe bet to put up, just over 1,000 yards and the 7 touchdowns that he got when he got the same thing from Phillip Rivers as their number 2 in that offense because Keenan Allen was there at the time. And so I think that's a guy you have to at least pay attention to. He might even be a guy to go after in late rounds because everybody's going to be doubting him and doubting that offense. He can be a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for you.
The big question there is he over? Wasn't it plantar fasciitis that he got?
And but the latest thing was a shoulder issue. So it wasn't plantar fasciitis that.
Oh, you know what? He got actually. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the wrong injury. He got over that relatively quickly compared to some other guys.
Right.
Yeah, if he's even 75% healthy, he's currently off the radar. And I think the Lions are going to be bad. They're not going to have the luxury of doing anything other than throwing the ball late in games. They're going to be trailing. As far as I'm concerned, the Lions are the favorite for the number 1 pick in 2022 right now. And guys like Williams, I already mentioned Cephas, they're going to be free.
Hawkinson
he's
going to be he's a dark horse tight end 1.
Yeah, well, Hawkinson has 6th round ADP right now, so he's not flying under the radar. Just a dark horse
for the tight end 1 overall, with how much that offense is going to have to rely on him.
Based on potential target share, no doubt. But he's not flying under the radar. The wide receivers are. So I think it makes a lot of sense, especially in best balls, to take a look. Tyrell Williams, you can probably you can cue him for the 18th round. I shouldn't even be telling you this,
Nick. That was the guy that I was going to keep for myself.
Don't play any best balls with me. If I play you can't play best ball with me anyway because you live in Pennsylvania and the Underdog app. Shout out Underdog.
Yeah, I haven't been able to figure that out, y'all. So if anybody knows of any ways to around that, let me know in the comments.
Draft.com. I think it's or Best Ball 10. Sorry, Best Ball 10s. I don't think they have a mobile app. I think you have to do it on desktop. If anybody who plays Best Ball 10s knows of anything different, drop a line. But they have a website, bestball10s.com.
We should be getting paid for this. They should be paying us.
We're not getting paid enough. They have draft rooms. I think it's full PPR best balls. You can play them right now, today, in March. So you can play. That's when you can go get Tyrell Williams. And I promise you I won't join in and snipe him from you in the 17th round.
Yeah, you probably will. I know how you operate.
What
about guys like, I want to switch to a different position here. Chris Carson or Aaron Jones.
Yeah. I just want what's best for Aaron Jones, man. That's all I want.
Just going to the Dolphins. They just cut Kyle Van Noy for no reason, and it saved anywhere from 9 to 13 mil off their cap. I'm not sure that number yet.
They did it so that they could pay a running back $15 million a year.
Boom.
I think Aaron Jones is going to go to the Dolphins.
And I'm sorry to cut you off. They just traded for that left tackle, second year player from the Tennessee Titans.
Isaiah Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah, there are some heavy concerns about whether this guy is actually going to play.
Right, but with the whole thought process being, give the new running back that's coming in here a young left tackle prospect to block for him, maybe on the right side or something like that. That's all I wanted to bring him up for. We don't got to do a deep dive into that player. Let's talk a little bit more about Aaron Jones.
If Jones goes to the Dolphins, which we speculated on this podcast, there are many, many pundits and experts that think that is an ideal and realistic landing spot for Aaron Jones. If he goes there, I actually may like it. At first, I was a little concerned about what it would be like for Jones leaving Green Bay. But I think if they sign him in Miami, they're going to build the offense around him. I think they're going to run the ball. I think they're going to utilize the run game, the short passing game, the screen game. I think he's going to see his usage go up in that scenario. So that's what I'm hoping for, but there's a slew of teams that have a need at running back, and Aaron Jones is that type of guy that you dish out a contract to. Hell, he could go to Seattle. He could take Chris Carson's job and go to Seattle, and I think he would instantly become a huge fantasy commodity then. He's still a high-ish, maybe around like 15, maybe a little higher than that. That's around his ADP right now. He's still not getting drafted before the beginning of the second round. If he goes to Miami or Seattle, to me, I'm like, why? You're gonna have to give me a pretty convincing argument why he shouldn't be a first-round pick, a low-end first-round pick. All this guy has done the past 2 years is be a top 5 running back. I've never seen a top 5 running back back-to-back years not get drafted in the first round.
And I will say this, you mentioned earlier in the episode that you like running backs who play for good defenses because theoretically they're going to be on the field more.
More
and
opportunities.
The Dolphins last year, even though, yes, they had to cut Kyle Van Noy to get a little bit more cap space to be able to sign a player like Aaron Jones, theoretically, they still have the best scoring defense in the league last year. So
there you go.
Take that into consideration too. Aaron Jones is going to move from a team that had a middling defense throughout Aaron Rodgers' tenure there with Aaron Jones to a team that could, if everything clicks for him again, have again one of the top scoring defenses in the NFL and one of the better and younger defenses in the NFL as well.
That's an ideal landing spot for him. Regardless of where he ends up, I still like Jones, and I think the team that gives him the money is going to build the offense around him. So continue to hammer him in the second round. If you get that opportunity to take him, I say do it. There's very little downside with a guy who's as talented as Aaron Jones. With Chris Carson, there's a drop-off in talent. Not significant. I'm not trying to insinuate or suggest that Carson isn't capable of being a starter, but the situation is going to play a little bit more of a role depending on where Carson goes. Like, say Chris Carson signs with, the Jets, who have the cap space and a need. Like, let's say the Jets signed Kenny Golladay and Chris Carson. Like, would I feel good? I would feel okay about it, but I wouldn't feel great about it. I would say it might be a situation to fade. Now, if he goes to, let's say, Miami, passes on Jones and decides to play, make a play for Carson, then I might like Chris Carson a little bit more.
I do think that people are devaluing the Jets from a fantasy perspective. Gase has nothing to do with that offense anymore, and they brought in Robert Saleh. This is a coach that you should have more trust in than Adam Gase because he's anybody but Adam Gase.
Well,
and this is an offense that I think should be able to turn it around to a certain extent. They do have one of the best young left tackles in the league right now, and if they go out and they draft Penny Sewell in the first round instead of a quarterback, if they want to build around Darnold,
that offensive line becomes good then.
Yeah, I don't. It depends. Darnold's still only 24 years old, so they haven't seen the best out of him. Then maybe he can Tannehill it around a little bit and prove that he's actually a quarterback after being Gased for so long. But I think the same thing applies to this whole offense, and we have to stop looking at running backs that go here.
Or players in general.
Maybe even wide receivers that go here. Or by here meaning the New York Jets, as it being a death knell on their careers. Because I think a lot of that should change this year.
Yeah, they have nowhere to go but up. This offense should be improved. We don't know what the offense is going to look like yet. It'll be interesting to do a deep dive on the offensive coordinator or whomever they hire and see what their philosophy is and how they've utilized and run their offense in the past. But that's another conversation for another day. Yeah, you're right. The Jets they're not going to be this black hole of swallowing up potential for production.
And throwing and making really weird decisions like running Frank Gore in there in 2020. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. You're going to have a much more competent coach because nobody screams incompetency like Adam Gase. So the Jets will be better. I guess the question will be if like a Chris Carson goes there, what is his workload going to look like? And then, if he goes to Miami, and the same question can be asked for Aaron Jones. What's going to happen with Myles Gaskin? What's going to happen with Salvin Ahmed? So
if either of those guys go to either of those teams, they're getting 75% of the work.
I would say like a 65% split is likely in favor of the starter. I think Aaron Jones would see more, regardless of where he goes. To me, Jones is currently a second-round pick with first-round upside. Carson is more in that like fourth, fifth round range, which is kind of how he's always been in his career. And he's usually returned a good investment on his ADP. It's just there's a good chance he's going to be working as far as personnel around him with a bit of a downgrade. I guess the same can be said for Aaron Jones if he's not going to be playing with Aaron Rodgers anymore. But I just think Jones's talent wins out over Carson's.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And Chris Carson is a injury risk. At least to me, I look at him as a guy that really struggles to make it to 14 games a year. But moving on to another position group, I wanted to touch on 2 tight ends before we end this pod.
Okay.
And that's Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Both are non-franchised right now and are set to be free agents.
Yep.
And we haven't really touched on the free agency tight ends at all through this whole year.
No, I guess not. This is our opportunity because it's now official. Hunter Henry is leaving a great situation with the Chargers. He would have been catching passes from Herbert. Now, obviously, we need to see where he ends up. Teams always could use a tight end. More and more teams love running. Teams love running 12 personnel. Even if they've already got a couple tight ends on the roster, you'll look to add one more. Tight end's an incredibly valuable position for NFL teams in 2021. And Henry has always been a viable fantasy tight end. This will be very interesting to see where he goes. There have been rumors that he could end up on the Patriots. If that's the case, I have no interest in Hunter Henry because right now, today, the Patriots don't have a quarterback. If he ends up, I'm just throwing names out there like the Saints who just cut 2 tight ends and could use a tight end. I don't know how interested I am in Hunter Henry because there's probably going to be a quarterback downgrade in New Orleans this year. The guy who I think is a little bit more interesting is Jonnu Smith. He's younger. He's much more athletic. He grades very high as far as the intangibles. He just ended up in an offense that features multiple tight ends, as one of the best running backs in the NFL, one of the best receivers in the NFL, and Corey Davis was a major reclamation project in 2020, and he came on really strong. So Jonnu was, I guess, kind of the victim of odd circumstance in 2020. I think he's the guy who is much more enticing despite a potential bad landing spot as far as who might be throwing him the ball.
I just want to speak a little bit on Hunter Henry because...
Draft Jonnu Smith. Maybe. We'll get there later too. But Hunter Henry, and I hate to jump back and forth, 2019, he was the tight end 9. 2020, he was the tight end 12. Pretty rock solid.
He actually regressed even though he went to a better quarterback. I think if he would have had this instant magnetic click with Justin Herbert, and that's where, even all of his secondary and tertiary targets were going, they would have tried to find a way to keep him around. But he is an oft-injured guy because he struggled to make it to 16 games up until the 2019 season. And he just didn't click. It didn't seem to click, and it didn't seem to be a detriment when he wasn't on the field to Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert kept doing Justin Herbert things.
Yeah, he did.
That said, if a team goes out there and really values him and wants to use him, he has the skill set to be a top 5 tight end. That's always been the thing with him. But I don't think I don't think he's ever going to get there because I don't think he's durable enough.
He can't stay healthy.
One of the reasons why he stayed healthy last season was because they weren't using him a ton.
The usage went down, therefore the hits went down. Yeah, that's fair. I agree that he definitely has high, tight end upside, like tight end 5 or better upside. Now it's much more dependent on the situation he ends up in. Still a guy that's, as long as it's not a team like the Patriots or a team that doesn't have a quarterback, still a viable option. But I can tell you right now, I don't think he's going to be a name that you're going to hear me pushing on this pod this year, just because I love the top 3 or 4 names at the top, and there's plenty of dart throws that I like at the end. Hunter Henry feels like a maybe 8th or 9th round pick who's kind of middling based off name recognition. He's definitely got talent, but to your point about not being able to stay healthy, does the wear and tear, when does that start to creep in? What's the tight end room look like with the team he's joining? Are they a run first team? The same concerns can be raised for Jonnu Smith as well. I just think Jonnu is a superior athlete, and that's what makes him a little bit more enticing to me. And his ADP will likely be lower than Henry's. So I don't think he's a name you're going to hear me push very hard.
But Jonnu Smith is, and depending on
not
the land
very
spot,
hard, but yeah.
Depending on the land spot, he could be very, very enticing.
I think Jonnu Smith's metrics, his intangibles, he's in the 90th percentile as far as tight end athleticism goes, and he has been a little bit more durable than Hunter Henry.
I do just want to say, tight end sleeper alert for Anthony Firkser.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
This is a guy who's going to be playing probably without Corey Davis at this point, and obviously without Jonnu Smith.
Yup.
And he's basically going to be, at least as it stands right now, we haven't seen with the draft and everything, of course, but he's going to be the second target for a ultra-efficient Ryan Tannehill.
Dirt cheap ADP. Anthony Firkser.
And this guy is going to get the work, and I think he showed that he has the ability to be. I think he's going to be top 6. If everything works his way, he could be top 6. Because after the first 3 or 4 tight ends, there's a drop.
I'll say top 10.
And I
can't do top 6 yet.
I think he could sneak in there.
I'll say top 10.
Okay, top 8. Top 8.
We'll split the difference.
8 to 6 range. I'm saying 8 to 6 range.
You stick there. I'm gonna continue to stay a little bit more conservative. I'll say he can be a top 10 tight end. Regardless, his ADP is non-existent right now. Firkser is free. Go get him. Firkser makes a ton of sense. Again, especially if you're able to get a Kelsey, a Kittle, a Waller high in the draft. I'm talking about. I'm back on the best ball train. For the record, I am consistently 100% of the time always on the best ball train. If it's between March and June and you hear me talking about drafting a player, it's best ball. Firkser.
Yeah, it took me half of a Rashad Penny pod to figure that out.
Hey, that didn't take that long. Speaking of Rashad Penny, Chris Carson, not going to be back in Seattle. Draft Rashad Penny. That's all I got to say. I think we need to let some chips fall where they may.
You said chips to start that off, so
chips.
Top 5 chips, bro.
Chips fall where they may. Chips?
Yeah, top 5 chips.
I mean, I gotta put Doritos at number 1, right?
Bro.
Doritos. They're so good. I'm not even a cheese guy. I hate cheese, but I can eat Doritos.
Okay, fine.
I mean, I've always been like a pretzels guy over chips, so I have to think about this. But I mean,
you can just put a bag of pretzels and say yeah.
Yeah, I think that's cheating. When
you're in the snack aisle,
that's cheating.
And you're in the supermarket.
You said chips.
The chips aisle, they're right there.
They are.
Pretzels are right there.
Yeah, but so are pork rinds and beef jerky. And if
okay,
I don't
know what stores you go to. California.
I go to the supermarket. A normal human being. No, salt and vinegar are up there. Barbecue chips are up there. I have started to get a little bit more into. Are they like the oven baked variety where it's they're a little bit more crisp?
Yeah.
And I think they might be a little healthier. Not that we're overly concerned about our health when we're eating chips, but they're good. I like the difference in texture and crunchability. Crunchability. Yeah. Oh, you know what else? I'll round it out. I kind of rapid fired these, but oh god, what are those called? They're like the sun they're like sun chips. Are they called? They're like a garden salsa flavor. Those Those are good. I like those a lot. They're different. They're like a square chip with the seasoning is all right on there. Yeah. Those are good.
New word.
Yeah, riffle. We made up some words today. That's fine. Yeah. I'm sticking with Doritos, salt and vinegar, barbecue, the oven baked, and the sun chips.
Okay. All right.
Chippies. I'm a pretzel guy. I like pretzels. That's,
Bro, I'm going to say pretzels.
Okay.
You didn't because you're uppity about it. And you're just going to... I don't eat a lot of chips either. I like regular potato chips with some salt on them. Like if there's just like
Lay's classic.
Yeah, if there's just that. I like that shit. And I like salt and vinegar chips.
Oh, they're a classic.
The pretzels. I'm gonna say pretzels just cause. And I don't eat a lot of chips. So I never like have these around the crib. But I would say that whenever I go on vacation and I'm with like I'm going to visit, not vacation, whenever I'm going to visit my fam, they get Cheetos and Cheez-Its.
Oh, well.
My mom and dad
both are elite.
Cheetos.
I don't know if they classify, but they're both. Oh, Cheez-Its they're both great. Actually, they're both great.
Cheez-Its are crack. There's something in Cheez-Its.
It's crack cocaine. Yeah. They should call crackets.
You cannot stop eating Cheez-Its. And I know they came out with all these different kinds of Cheez-Its, like white cheddar and all this shit. Just get the regular.
Nah, give me the original. I don't reduced fat crap. Get out of here.
No cheese nips.
Nah. Cheetos are, I like to, or are you like the Cheetos, the twisty ones, or like cheese curls?
The twisty ones. Okay. And it's, again, they're not something that I would ever go out and buy, because if I'm getting chips, I'm getting one of two things. I'm getting regular salt chips or regular salt and vinegar chips. That's it.
The salt and vinegar investment is good, in my opinion. Well, at least for me, they're so flavorful with the vinegar. I can't like eat a whole bag in one sitting, so they last a little longer. Yeah. I think the salt and vinegar, I think, is the best investment because I cannot eat one of those bags in like one sitting. A box of Cheez-Its, if I had no self-control whatsoever, and it's not great to begin with, that box could be gone in a day. Less than that.
No, I'm with you. And I don't know if that was 5. That is 5 because I threw pretzels in there. Are you talking like little pretzel, thin ass pretzel sticks? Or are you talking?
Oh, I don't care.
Are you getting like the really thick
the sourdough guys, those big ass ones that you can't.
I love the sourdough ones. Those
you gotta break them.
Those ones are my favorite.
But honestly, if you stuck pretzel sticks in front of me, if you stuck the little nuggets, the pretzel nugs in front of me, classic pretzels, sourdough pretzels. Philly favorite, soft pretzels. I grew up eating way too many of those.
You're from Philly, bro. I remember the first time I had the tangent, whatever. This is already a tangent piece of the pod. I remember the first time I had a Philly soft pretzel. It wasn't even when I lived here. I was here in the airport because I was here for a
layover
transfer flight.
Okay.
And I was just chilling, and I passed by this stand, and they had.
Philly soft pretzel factory?
It was a Philadelphia thing. No, it was just little stand of pretzels. It wasn't even the Philadelphia pretzel. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know that Philadelphia was known for that. I just bought a pretzel and it was great. And I was just like, damn.
There are people that walk around the store or they walk around the city with like shopping carts and it's just like soft pretzels. You can get a couple for $1.
I know that now. And it's a really unhealthy place for me to live because I love soft pretzels.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good. The problem is if you get a big bag, you got to eat them all quick because by the next day, they're all stale.
Or you put them in the freezer and then you toast them.
Yeah, you could do that. You could do that, but the quality definitely dips by that point. So
it does.
There's no doubt.
I had to throw in freezer because Dragon Ball. Tangent again. Third tangent. Whatever. We have to end this before.
You're on one today. All right, ask the faithful listeners what are their favorite chips.
Listeners, what are your favorite chips?
Hey.
Put your favorite chips in the comment section below. Thank you for listening. This is the Face Mask Podcast. My name is John. That is Nick. And have a great day.
Signing off. eating some chips.